He overheard me bragging about my ex's success. He then executed his plan to destroy my reputation. Hello, Reddit. My name is June, and I'm 28 years old. I'd like to keep the names of the place where I live and the names I'll be mentioning in this story a secret for privacy's sake. I am a nail technician and also a nail artist, and I used to work at a spa that deals with everything associated with beauty. I have a very difficult issue, and I don't know what to do, honestly. My life is literally on the verge of total ruin, and I can't think of a single thing to revert everything. It had all been my fault. All and absolutely my fault. And I don't know how to fix things. It's my boyfriend, Sam. He found out about 2 things, and now he's bent on having his revenge in the worst way possible. He has already done one part, and I'm scared of what he will do next. I've tried several means of reaching out to him and apologizing, but Sam is just so angry with me, and he's blocking me out. That's why I'm here. To seek advice. Well, I wrote before that I used to work as a nail technician. I quit my job after I met Sam. He was quite okay with it at first because he was comfortable enough to take care of my needs, but eventually he started to complain about anything and everything, and that pissed me off. I went and did something I shouldn't have done in the first place. Before I met Sam, I was dating a guy, Eric. I met Eric in university, and he was the typical bad boy that every girl liked to be associated with. He spent money like he didn't care what tomorrow was going to be like, and honestly, for someone like me, he was a catch. I came from a humble background, and even in school, I had to work different side jobs just to take care of my needs. He had been dating my roommate and friend back then, and the way she always came back into the room from their outing with lots of gifts, including clothes, bags, shoes, and even money, made me really envious of her. I wanted what she had. And then again, she wasn't exactly satisfied with what Eric gave her. She was always going out with other men behind his back, and I felt really concerned for Eric. So I did what any normal human would do. I told Eric about it. I remember that day that Eric had come to look for Anna in our room, and I was luckily around that day. She was out, per usual, with one of the guys she was always with, and so Eric met me alone in the room. When he asked after her, I told him the truth. Eric had been sad, and I tried to comfort him. One thing led to another, and we ended up having sex right there in the room. Well, truth is, immediately I knew it was him at the door. I had borrowed one of Anna's lingerie and wore a loose shirt on it. The shirt made it look like I was trying to get decent when he knocked, but it still mistakenly left nothing to the imagination. So while I was holding Eric's hand and telling him to get over Anna because she was cheating on him, my shirt was wide open and everything was on display. I knew the time his gaze shifted to focus on my breast, and I knew when he started to get an erection from staring at me. So I moved closer, and when I tried to kiss him, he didn't resist or push me off. So we had sex that day, and I was really happy because I finally stole Eric from Anna. Soon, Eric and I started sneaking around behind Anna's back and having lots of sex. He would invite me over to his place, and we would have sex so many times. Then, when I was leaving, he would send me money to buy anything I wanted. It felt like payment for the sex, but I refused to think of it as that because it would automatically reduce me to a sex worker, and I didn't want to think of myself as that. So I continued like that for about 2 months, and then Anna found out about Eric and me. She caught us having sex in his apartment, and she had been really angry. But then, because she was already with another guy who was much richer than Eric, she didn't do anything to me as I expected she would. This gave way to a full-blown relationship between Eric and me. I could now be seen in public with him, holding hands and laughing like couples did. I didn't care that people whispered about me stealing him from Anna. It didn't matter. I got what I wanted, and that was being with Eric, who spent money carelessly. I had fun with him, but my happiness didn't exactly last, because Eric eventually ended things with me. His reasons were that we weren't good together, and he was in love with another person. He had apparently been seeing someone else even though he was with me, and he didn't want the girl finding out about me. He was still going to keep seeing me and the girl, me for the sexual benefits and her because he was in love with her. But when I found out about the girl, he ended things with me because he didn't want me going to the girl with the truth. I was really heartbroken when Eric ended things with me because people like Anna ended up laughing right in my face about my failed relationship. Luckily, we were in our last year of college, so I just struggled to graduate, and I saved up enough money to leave that town completely. Finding a job after graduating was hard. Everyone wanted years of experience that I didn't have, seeing that I was just fresh out of school. After 3 months of unsuccessful job seeking, I had to start working different part-time jobs again because of the bills. I had student loans that needed paying, and then there were the basic needs: food, shelter, and others. It was after another 2 months of holding down different jobs that my friend introduced me to the spa. It was newly launched at the time, and they needed workers. Luckily, I had picked up the skill of nail artistry while growing up, and I was really good at it. So I applied for the job, and I got it. The pay was fair and well above the money I got combined from the other jobs, so I quit the other jobs and focused on that one alone. That was how I met Sam. He had come with his sister, who wanted to get her nails done for her wedding, and she had forced him down there to stay with her while she got her nails done. Sam had asked his sister a few questions, and she had been clueless about what he was talking about, so I had chipped in my own knowledge about it. Sam was obviously impressed by the answer, and he continued chatting with me and his sister until I finished up with her nails and they had to go. Sam asked for my number, but I couldn't give it to him because of the company's policy. He promised to come back, and for a whole week I was on the lookout for him, but he didn't show up as promised until the next week. He came in the evening and hung around until I closed from work. My place was close by to the spa, so he trekked with me to my place. He then collected my number and left. That was how Sam and I got talking. He texted me every day, and we talked about everything and anything. The only thing I did keep from Sam was my relationship with Eric. I didn't want to have to tell the story about how I stole him from a friend and how he ended up betraying me. I didn't want him to see me as that person, so I never once mentioned Eric in our conversation. Within a month of being friends, Sam asked me to be his girlfriend, and I agreed willingly. After 2 months of dating, I moved in with Sam because my rent was due, and he suggested living together. I agreed because it meant I didn't have to pay rent this time. Sam was a real gentleman. He drove me to and from work every day while on his own way to work, and he was always calling in between lunch hours to check in on me. He bought me gifts, and he liked surprising me. Sam was very much different from Eric, who didn't really care what my thoughts were on things. Eric never actually considered my feelings, even during sex. He just wanted his fill, and that was all. The only good part about him was the money I got from him, which I needed at that time desperately. Sam, on the other hand, was always trying to please me, even sexually. He made sure I had an orgasm before him, and he was always so careful with me, like he was dealing with someone very fragile. Being used to Eric's rough way of having sex, it took me a while to adjust to Sam's gentle dealing, and once I did, I enjoyed it very much. Eventually, my job became too demanding. We had a new manager. The old one was fired for some shady business, and the new manager was a pain in the neck. She wanted us to always be working. She didn't allow us to leave work at the time we pleased like the last one did, and she always wanted a notice before you left work with valid reasons. She was really annoying, and I kept complaining about her to Sam. Eventually, Sam suggested that I get another job if the one I had was stressing me that much, and I agreed. I quit my job at the spa, and I started job hunting again, but within 2 weeks, I stopped totally. I felt like working wasn't for me. I was tired of having to constantly work under someone. Sam hadn't complained when I told him I wanted to take a break from job hunting. He was financially capable of taking care of our needs without breaking his back. Having nothing to do but sit at home all day until Sam came back became really boring, so I started going out with some new friends I made. We would go shopping, then to spas, and even experiment with food at different restaurants. It was fun spending money without having to worry about rent, work, or anything else. At first, Sam didn't complain about the way I spent money, but eventually he started to complain about it. We had arguments about it, and I called him cheap on some occasions. I knew I had to start doing something, but I enjoyed just having fun more than actually working. So I settled for the best option for me to get the kind of money I needed to live the extravagant lifestyle I wanted. I cheated on Sam. And not just cheated, I cheated on him with my ex, Eric. After school, I didn't meet Eric again because I made sure to cut him off totally because of the embarrassment I received from the whole breakup, but I met him again after so long at a party. A mutual friend of ours had decided to invite as many people as possible to her birthday party. She obviously wanted to show off her new house and the fact that her husband was really wealthy. I didn't want to go looking like I wasn't financially stable enough, so I begged Sam to give me money to go shopping, and finally, after so much nagging and begging, he gave me money to shop. I bought new designs of bags and matching shoes and a new dress. I went to the party looking my best, and I even got my old friends admiring me. I was happy that I was able to impress the same people that mocked me back then. It wasn't until later that I saw Eric at the party. He came in with a woman, who I eventually learned was his wife, on his arm. When I looked closely, it was the same girl he dumped me for, and they looked so good together. I was really envious. I stayed away from both of them, but eventually Eric found me, and he started to ask me questions. I lied about some things. I didn't want him to know that Sam wasn't as rich as he clearly was, and I didn't want him to think I still wasn't stable after he dumped me. So I pretended like the breakup didn't hurt me as much as it did. He collected my number, and I pretended to be nonchalant about giving it to him. His wife must have noticed him talking to me because she came from across the room and hooked her arm around Eric in a possessive gesture. I was angry. I felt cheated for some reason. I was the one who was betrayed for the position she held, and at that moment, I felt like doing everything to get rid of her. 2 days after the party, Eric texted me, and I paid him full attention. At that point, I only just wanted revenge. I wanted her to know her husband could easily be swayed. I let Eric sweet-talk me, and I pretended to be buying everything he was saying. It was all about revenge, even when I first cheated with him. When I first slept with him, I only wanted revenge. But then the whole thing changed, especially when he sent me money after the first time we slept together. That day, he had asked me to meet up with him at his favorite restaurant, and I didn't reject the offer. I mean, I got to eat at one of the famous and highly sought-after restaurants, so who would have said no? We ate and talked about random things. He asked about my relationship, and I told him a well-made-up story about how good my relationship was and how easy things were with Sam. Eric had looked really jealous, and that made me happy. When we finished our meal, he invited me to one of his hotels to have their famous wine. I accepted the offer and went with him. He chose one of the finest suites, and he had the wine brought up to us. We had a glass each before he reached for me and kissed me. Reluctantly at first, but when he saw that I didn't put up any objection, he kissed me again. This time, he went all the way, and I allowed him. I allowed him to put me on the queen-sized bed in the room and remove all my clothes, and I watched him while he removed his. I thought it was a perfect revenge, stupidly. But in my head, making him cheat on his wife was the perfect revenge for what they did to me back in university. So when he finally came down on me and had his way with me, I was compliant. When we were done, I quickly put on my clothes and was leaving, but Eric stopped me. He requested my account details and transferred a huge amount of money that made my eyes bulge when I saw it. I didn't care again at that point about revenge. I didn't even care that he was so arrogant after we had sex. I didn't care about the fact that he just literally sent the money to prove that I lied about my relationship. He must have known that I was lying about the whole wealth thing about Sam. I even thanked him before leaving for the money. I didn't feel guilty until I got home. Then it dawned on me that I had just literally done it again, sold my body for money to the same person. I felt really bad, especially knowing that Sam was faithful to me. He came home that evening excited about the new progress he was making with work, and he wanted to tell me all about it. I couldn't bring myself to look at him properly or answer him well. I felt really guilty. And Sam noticed. He noticed my mood and kept pestering me to tell him, but I couldn't. So I just lied about feeling a little bit sick. Sam got me medications. Despite being so tired, he had gone to the pharmacy to get me medication so I could get better. It made me feel even more guilty. I was lying to him, and it didn't sit very well with me. Eric didn't contact me after that first time until a week had passed. When the first day passed, I thought it was because he felt guilty, as I was feeling, for cheating on his own wife. But then the second, third, and fourth day passed, and I knew he didn't just care about me enough to even call or text me. I didn't even touch the money he gave me. I didn't go shopping or anywhere that week, and Sam thought it was because I was feeling sick. He insisted that I go to the hospital, but I refused. I knew the cause of my sickness, and I knew I needed no medical attention. By the end of the week, Eric sent me a text. It wasn't a good afternoon or a how are you. It was simply an address, and I knew he wanted me to come there. I felt like rebelling and not showing up, but I eventually found myself in a cab, giving the address to the cabman so he could take me there. I got there, and I had been led to where Eric was. He was sipping a glass of champagne and laughing and talking on the phone. I sat silently and waited for him to be done with his phone call. When he was done, he smiled at me and asked me to strip off slowly. Despite everything in me screaming for me not to, I did as he asked. Yes, I know. I was greedy and selfish. But all that mattered at the end was the luxurious lifestyle I got to have. I did as he asked, and by the end of the evening, I went home with my account balance very weighty. Again, I managed to suppress the guilty conscience and convinced myself that I was doing the right thing. I didn't have to work again with the money, and I could shop till I dropped without having Sam nagging me about spending too much. It didn't matter that he was treating me like a cheap pimp. I only had money matters in my mind. So I continued sleeping with Eric, and I kept getting richer. But all the money didn't last, though. I was squandering it on anything that caught my eyes. I bought different things that I didn't even have needs for. Bags, shoes, jewelry, and anything that caught my attention. I was sponsoring trips for my friends and me, and I liked the way they looked up to me, the way they hailed me whenever I offered to pay for anything we bought, the way they envied me whenever I was allowed access to places only people made of money could, thanks to Eric's connection. They made me feel powerful and rich, and that helped suppress the guilt I was feeling from cheating on Sam. Sam kept trying to ask where I was getting the money from, and at first, I was lying. I told him the first time he asked that it had been a friend who bought me all the stuff I brought home. Then I told him that I did some online business that was earning me some money, and later, I didn't even bother with explanations. I would argue with him whenever he asked, and I would accuse him of being jealous that I was able to afford things for myself without relying on him anymore. Sam didn't say anything after that, but he clearly wasn't happy that he didn't know exactly the source of the money I was squandering. I started going on longer trips, and not with the girls like I usually lied to Sam that it was. They were trips with Eric. Whenever he went on business trips, he would take me along so I could be his booty call over there. I didn't mind because I got to enjoy the luxurious life I had always wanted. Eric was always in a business meeting anyway, leaving me to explore and buy anything I wanted with his credit card. I was happy. I was managing 2 different relationships, and I thought I was winning. Well, that was until my illusion came crashing down. It was my birthday, and I wanted to celebrate in grand style. I bought myself a car to have presented to me as a birthday gift. I invited all my friends, including people I didn't even speak to, just to show off. I couldn't have the party at home because Sam had kicked against the idea of having that grand a party, and then his house was not an option because it didn't fit my standard. So I begged Eric to allow me to have the party at his hotel, and he agreed. The party was everything I wanted and more. The ambiance, the food and drinks, and everything else were just perfect. Sam couldn't show up for the party because he had to make an emergency work trip, and I was happy he didn't because it would make people suspect that my relationship wasn't as perfect as I had painted it to be. My friends were all fawning and admiring everything I had on. One of them started to wish she had a man like Sam in her life. Of course, they all thought that Sam was the one who paid for everything and not Eric. I had invited Eric to the party, and he was sitting at the bar close to where I stood with my friends, so he heard my friends praising Sam for everything, and I saw when his mood changed. His hands tightened on the glass of wine he had in his hands, and I knew that I had to salvage the situation in order to continue gaining favors from Eric. So I tried to downplay the whole situation, and I told them that Sam was nothing compared to my ex. I told them how he, Eric, used to spend very lavishly on me, and how silly he spoiled me. I bragged about Eric's wealth to them and told them about how successful he was. My friends started to wish they had someone like Eric in their lives when I was saying everything. I thought I was saved because I saw when Eric smiled smugly before leaving the bar. But what I didn't know was that Sam had been at the party. He had arrived really late because his trip was canceled at the last minute, and he wanted to be there for me even though he wasn't exactly in support of the whole thing. He had shown up and overheard everything I was saying to my friends, and he had apparently put 2 and 2 together and realized exactly where my wealth was coming from. But Sam had not done anything. Not at that moment. Not even a week after, but a month after my party. When I got home from the party, exhausted after not only the hosting of the party and having to smile and accept congratulations through the whole thing, but because Eric had demanded that we have sex as payment for him paying for everything. So I was aching by the end of the evening, and when I got home, Sam had been there. I was surprised and asked him why he was back, and he had told me that the trip was canceled. I got upset with him for not showing up at the party, even though I hadn't wanted him to, and he had even apologized to me. What I didn't know was that Sam was silently and carefully planning his revenge, and he had his revenge in the most horrible way possible. I didn't even expect it. I continued living my fake life, thinking my secret was perfectly safe. What I didn't know was that Sam had me followed, and he got enough evidence that was solid proof that I was sleeping around with Eric. When he had obtained it, he sent it to Eric's wife first. Let's just say her reaction wasn't a pretty one. She had come at me. How she knew where I was that day, I would never know. And she almost beat me to a pulp right in front of my friends. She insulted me and called me different names. She made sure everyone around there knew I was sleeping around with a married man, and I was really embarrassed that day. My friends, who all looked at me with admiration, had been shocked, and they had left quickly before they were tagged with me. I got home with tattered hair and clothes, and luckily, Sam wasn't home. I didn't know he had planned for the whole thing to happen. The next morning, my video was going viral. How Eric's wife had pulled my hair and clothes while calling me all sorts of bad names. I was tagged the husband napper. Everyone on social media was coming after me. People I didn't even know before were insulting me and calling me names. It was then I really began to panic. I didn't even know at the time that Sam had known about my affair, so I was scared he was going to find out through the post. But Sam had shown up at the house that evening, and instead of the anger I expected to see, he was very calm, and he was even smiling. He asked if I enjoyed the little show Eric's wife pulled on me. I was so shocked, and he laughed when he saw my expression. It was then he explained everything, how he heard when I was bragging about my successful ex and his massive wealth, and how I was condescending about him, how he eventually put two and two together and discovered the sudden wealth I got without actually working, and how he had me followed so he could get concrete evidence of my infidelity. He explained everything, and I could feel my throat clogging as he did. He did everything. He was even the one who posted the video of Eric's wife beating me up. It was then I understood what I had done. I underestimated Sam, and I was suffering the consequences of doing so. He told me that he had sent a copy of my videos and pictures with Eric, and also the fight video to my parents, since they didn't exactly have access to the internet. He was going to ruin me in every way possible, and he made sure I knew that. He promised me that he wasn't finished with me yet. I tried to beg. I tried to apologize. I wanted Sam to forgive me and stop his cruel revenge, but Sam wouldn't listen. He swore that he wouldn't stop until he made sure my lover and I were ridiculed, and then he left. He left me on my knees and in tears. He wasn't even moved by them. He looked at me in disgust and just left the house after warning me to move out within the day. He didn't care how I was going to do that. He just wanted me gone. It's been 3 awful days. I cannot even come out of my small apartment that I rented because of fear of stigmatization. I fear that people would recognize me on the street and point fingers, or even go as far as spitting on me. I've tried so many times to reach Sam, but he wouldn't let me. I feel so terrible, and I really am scared of what Sam's next action will be. What do I do, guys? I really am so scared. And I know this may sound very silly, especially not after everything I've written, but I really love Sam, and I cannot afford to lose him. Is there really any way to salvage the situation and get both my life and my relationship back? This time, I swear, I will be content. Please, guys. Update. Hello, Reddit. This is my second post here, and I remember writing something about Sam swearing to take complete revenge and ruin me totally. Well, he kept his promises. He didn't stop at just posting the video of Eric's wife beating me up, but he had posted the video of Eric and me together as evidence of the affair, a video that showed very clearly that I was sleeping with Eric. How he had obtained CCTV footage of Eric and me having sex in one of his hotels, I wouldn't know, but he did, and he had posted it online. I cannot even count the number of people who have stalked me just to insult me, both physically and online, the stares and whispers, the finger pointing, the disgust I see on people's faces as I walk by. I'm literally now a laughingstock amongst everyone. My life is simply not my life anymore. I cannot say Eric had it worse than me, but he's also on the verge of losing everything he has ever worked hard at building. Last I heard, he's in the middle of a messy divorce, and his investors are pulling their investments, leaving him with loads of debts. But then, he's not the only one in debt, though. The car I bought? I sold it for half its price just so I could get the little apartment I rented. The dresses, bags, and accessories? I sold them all too so I could feed myself. I cannot exactly bring myself to start working. No one would employ me, especially not after everything that's happening, so right now I'm broke, depressed, and regretful. My dad has refused to speak to me ever again, and my mom has tried severally to plead on my behalf, but he's being so adamant. He had even threatened to divorce my mother if she didn't stop coming to my place, so the only person that visited me ever since the whole thing happened stopped visiting. She clearly made her choice. And it was her husband. I don't even falter for it. I can only blame one person, and that is myself. I was selfish and greedy. I wanted it all: money, fame, love, and even people's respect. And I thought I had it all, only to lose not one, but all of it at once. I regret everything so much. I shouldn't have ever allowed Eric into my life. Not the first time, or even the second time. I did things that I should never have been caught doing, and now the mess that is now my life is the reward for it, the consequences of my actions. After Sam was satisfied with how he had ruined me, he cut off every sort of connection with me. Before, I at least was able to drop off texts and calls, even if they all were not returned, but now he has blocked me off completely, even on social media. He was putting up a clear message, and it was that he wanted nothing more to do with me. And everyone else? They wanted nothing to do with me either. My friends? The people I thought were always going to be there, and not just because I sponsored their trips and paid for things they bought, they left. I thought they would at least consider the fact that I spent most of the money I got from cheating on Sam on things we did together, but they clearly weren't loyal to that extent. They stayed only when everything was going fine, and now that everything's ruined, they ran away. No proper excuse was even made. One had told me very clearly when I called her to lend me some money that she wanted nothing to do with someone like me. I've become an object of ridicule and shame, and nothing hurts as much as losing Sam. I could have borne everything else. I would have been able to withstand the shame, the whispers, the insults and comments if only the one person that I should have never tried to hurt in the first place could forgive me and be there for me. But I know how impossible that is. I broke his trust and toyed with his love. I destroyed everything we built together, and there's obviously no going back from what I've done. Sam gave me everything: love, money, care, and affection, but I let greediness and jealousy drive me off the cliff. And now there's no saving me. I'm beyond saving. It doesn't matter what I do now or later. Sam will never forgive me or forget what I did to him. And honestly, if I were in his position, I wouldn't forgive me either. But that doesn't stop me from wishing so desperately that I could turn back the hands of time or get Sam to take me back. But then, if wishes were horses, I guess even beggars would ride, right? Update. Hello, Reddit. It's been 2 whole months since the whole thing went down. This is my last post here, actually. And to be honest, I know how much you guys hate me and are disgusted by me. I can already guess the types of comments you drop under this post. It hurts when I read through your backlashing comments, and I admit that I've shed a few tears over the comments you guys drop without considering my feelings. But it's all fine. Nothing hurts as much as losing Sam anyways. And I will stop posting after this last one, because even penning down doesn't do much to help my feelings anyways. You'd expect a time difference of 2 months would have an effect on the situation, but it is not so in my case. People still insult and stare rudely at me when I pass by. I still get crude comments about what people think about me. I still get bashed online for destroying a home and also ruining my relationship. My parents are still maintaining their silence and refuse to speak to me, and I'm still in so much pain. My head is like a broken record, replaying every scene where I could have done better and made better choices. I keep wishing that I would sleep and wake up the next day and realize that everything was just a bad dream. It's so sad how miserably I've ended my life because of my greediness. And there's no greater pain than knowing that Sam will never be mine again. Not now, not ever. I hope you guys surely learned something from my life, because I can tell you for free that it sure feels like hell on this side of life. I would give anything to be able to undo my wrongs, but sadly, there's nothing I can give in replacement for the damage I have caused myself, Sam, and even everyone around me. I've ended up a lonely and depressed person with no hope for the future. Goodbye, guys.